But the economic system that is prevailing today is based on interest. And although the prohibition of riba is not restricted to Holy Quran only, this was prohibited by the Bible. This was prohibited in clear terms by the Bible. There are many verses in the Bible that say that one cannot indulge in the practice of riba. But when came the Industrial Revolution, then they wanted to base their economy on the basis of interest. So the verses of Bible came as an obstruction before them. So the problem was that they were believing in Bible, they were believing in the verses of Bible, and on the other hand they wanted to eradicate the economy based on interest. So now the first person who came forward to solve this problem, according to my limited knowledge, was John Calvin. John Calvin, one of the famous leaders of Protestant, he was a companion of Martin Luther, who was the founder of Protestant sect. So he came forward and said, no, the riba that was prohibited by Bible was something else. And the riba that we are practicing today in our industry, in our banks or financial institutions is totally different from what was prohibited in the Bible. Because in previous days, the borrowers were poor people. They used to borrow money for their individual needs. For example, they are facing hunger and their family needs bread and butter, but they did not have it. So they asked someone to lend them some money. So if a person demands something over and above the principle, then it was a zulm. It was something wrong, because you are dealing with poor people and you are demanding something more than you are lending them. But today, we in the banking system, the borrowers are poor, not poor people. They are wealthy people. They have industries. They are traders. And then when they borrow money from the banks, then they use it for their own benefit, for their own profit. So if something is charged over and above the principle, it should not be taken as zulm. So therefore, he drew the line between interest and usury and said it was usury that was prohibited. But this interest is something modern, and therefore the prohibition doesn't apply to it. This was firstly, according to my knowledge, this idea was presented by John Calvin. And then when interest became the practice of the day, then many people followed suit, and they claimed that there was a big difference between usury and interest. Even from the Muslims, there was voices to say that this is not that interest. But my father, Hazrat Maulana Mufti Ahmad Shafi Sahab Rahmatullah Alayh, used to tell a joke about this. He said that one Indian musician traveled for Hajj, and when he was traveling from Mecca to Medina, he stayed at a place, at a small town, and in those days it was necessary that one sleeps in these caravansarais between Mecca and Medina. So he, after having dinner, he saw that there was an Arab musician, and he started playing music and started singing. But his song or his music was so awkward that he could not resist to say that, may Allah bless our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He has heard the music of Arabs, this awkward music of Arabs. Therefore, he prohibited it. Had he heard my music and my song, he did not prohibit songs. So this kind of argument is, say, analytic, is about that the argument of that musician, that it was riba. The basic question is whether a transaction itself is valid or not. If the transaction is valid in sale, for example, if you sell bread to a person, do you differentiate between the purchaser who is wealthy or a poor? No. You are allowed to charge a profit from both. And what is the standard to say that this is poor and this is wealthy? So therefore this was totally wrong, and this argument was discussed in detail by the Muslim Ummah in their conferences, in their meetings, in their seminars, and it was totally rejected by all the Ummah and then lastly it was presented before Islamic Fiqh Academy in Jeddah, of which I happened to be vice chairman at that time. Then all the scholars of earth, they with consensus decided that this argument is false, and anything charged over and above the principle, it is haram, it is riba. Now I would come to the question, why is it necessary to avoid riba? Because once this hurdle was crossed by John Calvin, then all the transactions of the world